Okay, let's go. This is game 2 of my tournament, which is... Well, during the tournament I said that I thought that I was winning in the first 4 games with at least like +4 in all of the games. First one was kind of an over-exaggeration, the second one definitely, and we'll see that. I played as black. I also think that I played... the 5th game was, I think, reasonably well played, but I wasn't ever winning by that much. And I think the 6th game I was definitely winning by that much at some point as well. So I was winning very much by in game 2, 3, 4 and 6 for sure. And this one we'll see how far we can get. Yep, got the game right here. I was playing black this time, and we went into a Sicilian again, but this time a close Sicilian, which I have no opening prep for. I just know that you should develop your pieces, and I once accidentally found like 12 moves of opening theory by just developing pieces and playing natural moves, so, you know, I'll probably be fine. I played e6, which I know that you should do against mostly bishop at c4 close Sicilians, instead of g6. F4, and I played d5. I like claiming the center back. Even after e5 here, I think I'm still doing quite well. And I know that even after e5 you should often play, maybe not immediate d4, but quite quick d4 to prevent the opponent from playing d4. Maybe like knight c6 first and then d4. My opponent didn't play e5 though, so this doesn't matter. I do know that you should still play d4, even without that you should still quite often play d4 if allowed. So knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight e7, defending the pinned knight, so that knight e5 is no longer an issue. I mean, it's still slightly annoying, but I can probably just play f6 and be fine there. Castle. And here I played the move d4, which I think this is probably the correct time to do it, because d4 was on its way. So yeah, and the knight, where does it go? The knight went to e2, which also kind of traps this bishop. So I can now win the bishop pair with a6. And they're basically forced to take my knight, because otherwise the bishop gets trapped, because I have c5 and c4 and b5 and everything. So they take, I take with the knight obviously. I think I'm already a bit better here. But I think that's probably mostly subjective. Objectively, I'm probably still worse because I'm playing black. But yeah, d3, and I played bishop e7, tried to just finish my development, just natural things. c3 here, trying to undermine my center, but it's currently sufficiently defended. So I just ignored it and tried to develop this bishop, which has to probably go here. So I played the move b5, which has kind of has something with a c4 option, but I just mostly didn't want it to be on b6 with a6. This pawn is also never really under any type of pressure. The only way it's under pressure if they ever take, but I take back with the pawn probably quite a lot. So yeah, it really doesn't need to be on b6, so I just pushed it to b5, have some options of c4 open at some point. Here my opponent kind of surprised me. I thought that this was slightly inaccurate. They played queen c2, which was a type of move that I thought that's... well, the c-file is going to open up and I will own the c-file. So, if they ever take. So I wasn't really convinced of this move. I do need to play bishop b7 and probably rook c1 as well. But yeah, that or rook c8. But that's totally to be expected. I was expecting some b3 option at some point to develop this bishop. And the moment this pawn moves, I would probably just take here. And then plant my knight on d4. I really wanna... I kind of wanna take, but I don't want there to be a pawn on c3 anymore afterwards. I also kind of want to push e5, but that's never really an option. Unless I try to defend it an extra way. But I can't use this diagonal because e5 take, knight takes, bishop f4 is annoying. So yeah, I wanted to play f6 at some point to do that as well. But if I can't defend this square with an extra pawn, then I just want to plant a knight there at some point. So yeah. Bishop b7. I was rambling a bit, I guess. a3 happened, which yeah, it's probably fine. I don't know. I wasn't really afraid of b4. Knight g3. Which I also really wasn't afraid of. And now I try to get e5 going. At any point, if they ever took on d4, I had a plan of how to take back. And it's really just swapped between c takes and knight takes. Now it's currently on knight takes, I think. With the point of just crashing through with c4 the next move. Or just c4 first, even. Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure what my opponent was doing. I wasn't really afraid of any of it. I played the move f6, and if my opponent played e5 here, I would probably just push and claim that the weakening of the d5 square is worth it for me. I don't think I would take. Yeah, I mean, actually, knight takes. Yeah, this pawn seems weak, and if I take again, then my king seems weak. Yeah, I don't really like that. So, after e5, I'd probably just play f5, and then figure it out. I had a game some time ago where I planted the bishop on d5 and it was an absolute monster. It was the game that it was the first win of my of this season actually, where suddenly the h-file opens up and I get checkmate here. It's in a similar type of pawn structure, I think. But yeah, so that was my not intuition, the other one, inspiration. How did I figure that out? I'm usually terrible with words. But yeah, f6 also does something else which I underestimated, and it was totally fine, but it's still something that I'm sad that I missed. It actually defends this e6 square, so queen b3, which happened in the game, just attacks my pawn, and I have to defend it like that. Yeah, and if I ever play e5, then I can't ever castle again. So I was kind of afraid of knight h5, putting pressure on g7. Probably it's just fine for me still, but yeah, didn't want to deal with that. And if I castled, then this pawn would be pinned and f5 would happen. Yeah. But I always have this, and after e5 I can just run away. Actually no, I do need to take in that case and then run no. Oh, actually e5 is not defended sufficiently for my opponent. So this e5 I just take a bunch and be up a weak pawn. So yeah, I think knight h5 is probably the move here, but instead they played c takes d4, and now I'm suddenly probably a bit better. Where were we? Yeah, knight takes d4. Here I think knight takes d4 makes sense because I also want to play c4 here and open up the c file and keep my knight here. Or if they take here, then I take with the pawn and then I just own the c file immediately, which is actually what happened. Actually, sorry, that's not what happened. If I took like that, I'd own the c file immediately, but I actually took with the queen, which kicks the king, and then played c4. Because it defends this pawn and attacks the queen, forces queen to run away, trades off the center, and I suddenly get the c file and the d file, or at least the c file. So yeah, c4, take on c4. I took with the queen to trade queens and get my rook active, attacking this pawn as well. It's already owned the c file, so it's totally fine. And my next two moves are probably something like this. So yeah. Rook takes c4, rook e1 happened to defend the pawn. Makes sense, because it was attacked twice, and only it defended once. Now it's defended twice. Sometimes high-level games can be that easy. Just, I played rook e1 because my pawn was under attack, and now it's no longer under attack. So yeah, king f7. My opponent still needed to develop this bishop, so they played bishop d2. Here I could play rook c2, but then bishop c3 and my rook kind of gets stranded on the 7th rank, which is good, but it probably just gets traded, and then then I'm not that happy with my position anymore. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that I like opening the position because I have the bishop pair, and they can now, or maybe this even, attack their entire center and their king side, maybe here as well. So yeah, that's why c4 was actually quite good for me. I played rook d8 actually instead, because this blockades the c file, so now I instead want to own the d file, which I do, because the bishop is blocking it from my opponent. Bishop c3 still happens. Bishop, here I develop this bishop to c5, because after d6 they might play e5, which I didn't want. At any point, if they pushed either of these pawns, I'd push the other one. I don't think I'd ever trade, because then my king becomes weak. So yeah, I didn't want to fight e5, because then I'm forced to trade, and then I'd not be happy. This kind of traps my own rook, but that's actually not a problem at all, because my opponent doesn't have a light square bishop. So it's really hard to attack it. And b3 loses this bishop. And after rook a2, or rook e2, which I don't understand, I realized this thing also meant this. If they took back on a3 with a pawn, I take the bishop. So suddenly I started looking at bishop takes a3, because also if the rook takes, then They almost get checkmated, but they could just barely hold like that. So after bishop a3, rook a3, I can take here, and then this would be checkmate. And if they don't take, then I win a pawn here. And if they take like this, I win a pawn. And if they don't take this bishop at all, I win a pawn. So I thought this was the nail in the coffin, instead of the correct move, which is bishop d or rook d3, and just do this. That's totally normal. I instead just play bishop takes a3 and lose to bishop a5, which is terrible. So my rook is under attack, my bishop is under attack. I'm attacking nothing. There's never any checkmate issues because the rook is still on a1. So yeah, I just lose. If they can't take both, but either one is winning enough. Because both the bishop and the rook defend, and they only need to get rid of one of them. And the worst part is that the worst part about this, where if I got this position, I'd find bishop a5 in like a minute, and I was looking at this position for like 10 minutes, and bishop a5 didn't come up at all, which is, yeah, it's a mistake in my calculations that I have learned of. I learned from this mistake, and now I'm trying to look at in-between moves all the time now. Or actually, I tried to do that in the rest of my tournament games. I'm not sure how well that went, but it went better at least. So yeah, the best way to continue is to just take here, because this hangs and this hangs, so they have to take my bishop. Now my rook moves to here, threatening checkmate. They have two ways of defending it, this and this. And this also defends the pawn, but they decided to not even do that. Just give me a third pawn, thinking, oh, the game is over. Doesn't matter anyways, right? Where were we? Actually, no, there's another way to defend, which they did, which was king g1. And then I took here, and now we have 6 pawns versus 3, but 2 rooks and a bishop versus 2 rooks. This is actually quite difficult still for my opponent to win. There's still some play here. These pawns are kind of stuck though, which is kind of unfortunate. But I'll figure it out. g3 to defend this pawn. I just went back to c4, bishop d2. And here I thought, and I still think so, that 2 rooks are probably winning easily, or relatively easily. 1 rook is probably quite hard for my opponent to win. And no rooks is definitely winning. So I decided to trade off 1 set of rooks and try to hold on to the other one as long as possible. The bishop went to e1 and I played rook c6 defending my pawn, and I tried to get this to a draw, and yeah, it's really difficult. So last game was I didn't mention it, I kind of mentioned it. Last game was 61 moves. This game is longer. The first day of the tournament was very, very long for me. I played like 7 to 8 hours of chess in a single day. It was insane. Fortunately, the next day was a bit shorter, but I was still just crushed after that. And then the third day was, yeah, I was still tired. No excuses though, but you know, yeah. This game is very long. We're not even halfway through this game. King f2, king g6. Okay, now we're halfway through this game. Because the game is 64 moves. King e3. I went to f5 and maybe doing this. If I get rid of all of these pawns, I can even lose a pawn in this case. Worst case, I'd have to play rook versus rook bishop, which is a draw. But I've never played that before, and it's apparently quite difficult to hold. But that was my plan right now. I wasn't planning on trying to push these necessarily, mostly because a5 was defended twice. So yeah, I was going here. h3 happened though, threatening g4, which pushes me back, so I play h5, bishop d2, and here e5 forces a trade of one of the pawns, which they accepted. King d3, trying to move here, I think. Also maybe trying to get bishop c3. I gave a check here, and they just went back. I thought they wouldn't repeat. I thought this was sufficient showcase that their plan doesn't work, and I failed to realize that bishop c3 is their plan, so I should just play rook c6. I played g5 instead, which I thought was a good move to continue on with the trading stuff plan. And now bishop c3 happened, and their bishop is kind of active now. King f5, rook f1, king g6. And now this pawn is under attack for a second time, but I still think this is totally fine. Well, it's still probably kind of a draw. Yeah, king g6, rook f2. I'm not sure what... Oh yeah, they wanted to trade off the second pair of rooks, which kind of works. I played f5 with the attempt to trade off the last set of pawns with f4 maybe. Rook d2, rook c6, and here after bishop b4, I thought that I was smart by being able to that I could play f4 because they can't take twice because of this trick. So f4 would get rid of one more pawn, so I only needed one pawn, and then I'd be basically done, and then it's basically a draw. So yeah, so I played f4, take, king f3, and rook. Oh, they were also threatening rook d6, by the way, so I had to do something. The only other plan is to give this pawn and force my king to the 7th rank to keep my rook. So I thought this made sense. My opponents thought that this was the losing mistake, which kind of tells you already that I lost this game. Also kind of important, this is the right bishop for the pawn. So if they get rid of all of my pawns and then trade rooks, they still win, which is terrible. Yeah. But yeah, here I played rook b4, rook c4, I think, fairly certain. Rook c4, yes. Rook d6 checks happened regardless. And now I have to basically decide which of these pawns I want to hold on to. I decided to... Well, I mean... Yeah. The main issue... I almost have a draw here, just by force. I can't quite run here. So I can't quite do this because of bishop e1 check, and this is checkmate, which is really sad. because otherwise this would be a forced draw. If my king was on h2, I could move here. Actually, then I'd still get checkmated. Um, but if this king on f3 was on e2 or something, I'd play this and I'd claim a draw basically. So which is kind of unfortunate. I went instead to f5, didn't even try it. Bishop d2 because the bishop was attacked, so it needed to run, and I tried to save my a6 pawn and give up both of these. And especially this one is really painful. But yeah, rook d5 check, king g6. They can take here, and I also lose this by rook g5, and I can't run into this discovered attack, which is really annoying. And I can't play h4 because plenty of things, mostly king g4, and then just defend the bishop in some way, and this pawn starts running. Yeah. Oh yeah, rook a3 check. That's where we're at already. I tried to find something to do, because now this bishop is finally not attacking these pawns, so I can kind of start running. I played b4, the bishop is pinned, so they can't even do this. They played rook g5 check. I can almost go here as well, but rook a5, because a lot of cases I can just take the bishop in a lot of discovered attacks. For example, rook b5, trying to take this pawn, I would just take the bishop. Or rook g4, same idea. But they can play rook a5. I'd have to go back, they could take my rook, and this is then the bishop would go here and be useful to control h8, and this is just game over already. They've got infinite moves as well, so they can never get into zugzwang position, so it's just a win from there. Which I of course saw, so I didn't go to h6. Where were we? Move 51 already. There, king f7, light square. That's it. They take my pawn, I play a5, rook b5. I didn't want to play b3 because then the instead of a5, because then the pawns get too far away from each other and they can get picked off individually, and the bishop can move as well. But here my pawns are stuck regardless, because of if I play b3, there's bishop c5 kicking my rook, which is unfortunate. So I played rook a1, bishop b6, and I just lose my pawns. I tried this and b3. And here, I think still bishop c5 is winning. Probably. No, wait, here it isn't because of rook a4. And then... Or it's probably still winning, but it's... This? Is that good enough? I think so, wait. No, not bishop b4, but like... This. No, it's not, because the bishop just moves. No, this is definitely not winning enough. Or not lose. Yeah. This didn't happen, but I've assumed it was winning as well already, but it was an attempt. But they started running the pawn. a4. Bishop d4. Okay, 2. Yeah, the bishop is perfectly situated, and I can't even stop the pawn. I tried this, but rook b7 check. Shit. And they're just setting up a checkmate threat, and I just let that happen because there's nothing I can do. Yeah. Where were? So I tried rook g2. Yeah, king f5. I thought that there was only one. I mean, there are two defenses, this and that. And here I should just play rook f2, but it doesn't matter. I play this and get checkmated immediately. 64 moves, yeah. Even if it isn't checkmate, it's still good enough. Because even if I get here, then this pawn just runs. And my pawn is... Actually, my pawn isn't stopped now. But that's 4 moves and this is only 3. And the moment my rook moves off of the g-file, this bishop is annoying. But it's checkmate regardless, so it doesn't even matter. So yeah, I was definitely winning at some point, but I definitely lost this game. Yeah, d4 immediately already. But this is also fine. And now d4, and now I'm better already. It apparently likes taking the pawn on c3 and on d4. But I never liked that. Wait. Castle. Yeah, bishop or knight g3 didn't make much sense to me. I didn't like castling though. There was a reason for it. Was it f5 immediately? Maybe it's that. Maybe it's f5, and if I play e5 then f6 becomes an issue with knight h5 and the queen gets in and stuff, and I didn't want that. But yeah, this is not good enough because c4 immediately. I did look at that, but I did not like it as much. Yeah, oh, you get knight a5, which is interesting, but I did see knight a5 actually, now that I think about it. But I didn't... But I wanted my knight on d4 and not c4. Because the knight on... why did I think that? Knight on c4 actually makes a lot of sense. Oh wait, that line also loses my d-pawn, right? Queen a2 is the only move. Jesus. I thought queen d1. Why is this so bad? No, not rook e1. I mean, 2 bishops versus 2 knights, obviously, but like... Is it really this bad? That's crazy. So, queen a2, and then... Yeah, this loses this pawn, but apparently it's fine. Oh, it also defends here, I guess. Okay, now I mean, with the queen on a2, I can see why this is better for me. But this is similarly strong. Apparently you should really take with the knight and allow this trade and then take with the queen. Oh yeah, to play c4, yes, that makes sense. And queen takes as well, because of rook takes and bishop e3, I wanna say. Yeah, and okay, here I'm definitely better. h5. Crazy move. This is apparently also still good. Bishop c5 makes sense. Rook, yeah, rook d3, definitely the move. Like I said, I did say it. Rook d3. But this is not good enough because of bishop a5. It's the only move as well. I was looking at bishop takes... I was looking at this actually. This was my line that I assumed, and then this and have fun. Yeah, probably push. Try to defend the pawn maybe and then lose this. Just try to hold on with all hope. h5 again, yeah, I would have found h5. But so I did find the second best move. And this is just... it's bad. Could have also just sacked the exchange, but I thought this was better because I get... yeah, I just get 3 pawns. And it's still very close. Yeah, bishop rook c2 is correct, trading one set of rooks. And then... I mean, it's still a draw. I blundered my way into a draw, it's so crazy. But it's better for white for sure. Taking the rook as a draw still, that's insane. I mean, I kind of see it. Apparently I'm even better here. That's fucked. Yeah, king there. And now I'm worse. Finally I'm worse. This endgame was unplayable for me, or at least very hard to play. Yeah, finally it's actually just winning. Yeah, now it's just dead. It's just announcing checkmate. Nothing mattered, so yeah. Crazy that I'm just better here. Right, okay, that makes a lot more sense. There was another point where I was actually better. Right? Maybe not. Maybe it's gone already. Yeah. This is a very unfortunate game. I was definitely better here. Yeah, and I overestimated how much I was better. I thought I was +4, but it's only +2.6. Oh no. It's definitely winning. Yeah, just rook d3 and like... not sure what all of that is with, but h5 makes a lot of sense actually. And they can't play, and I have all the moves in the world to figure out what I want to do. a5, that seems not the best move. That's the second best move. Now it's good. That's a crazy move. It's also attacks here, which is probably why rook e2 happened as well. Yeah, now it's just everything's winning. I knew it as well. I knew that I was winning and that rook d3 was probably the best move, but then I thought I saw a killing blow, which was... I mean, this is -2.6, and if they don't find the best move, then it is minus 2.1, which is still very winning. And this is minus 2.8 even. Yeah. Probably would have gone here. Well, better luck next time.